You think you know what a spy looks like, what they do, how they kill, how they disappear. Every single thing you believe, you learned from a film, and almost all of it is completely wrong. 9 myths, all of them still believed by millions of people right now, starting with the one the intelligence agencies themselves got killed by. A dead drop is one of the most iconic images in espionage. A chalk mark on a wall, a package under a park bench, 2 agents who never meet, never speak, never even know each other's real name. Except that isn't how most intelligence actually worked. And that park bench? In the real Cold War, it got more agents killed than almost anything else. Everything you think you know about spies, the gadgets, the kills, the cover identities, the glamour, almost all of it is wrong. And the truth is far stranger and far darker than anything a screenwriter invented. Myth number 1. Spies are trained to kill. The first assumption, a spy can break your neck in 3 seconds. 17 martial arts, licensed to kill. Most intelligence officers never once used physical force in their entire career. The CIA, KGB, and MI6 were bureaucracies. Their weapon was information, collected through patience and paperwork. Violence was considered a sign of operational failure. It meant something had already gone badly wrong. Ian Fleming worked in naval intelligence during the war. His job was coordinating operations, not field combat. He gave Bond the license to kill that Fleming himself never had. The KGB's actual field training prioritized surveillance, dead drops, and cover maintenance above everything else. Their most valuable officers were forgers and linguists, not fighters. Myth number 2. Spy gadgets were like the movies. Exploding pens, wristwatches that shoot darts. The Cold War spy, in the popular imagination, was a walking hardware store. Real espionage technology was designed for communication and concealment, not combat. The KGB's most prized piece of equipment for decades was a hollowed-out coin, not a laser. A coin to hold a microfilm message small enough to pass undetected. The most sophisticated device used against the United States during the Cold War was the Thing, a passive listening bug with no battery, no power source, invisible to every electronic sweep ever run against it. It sat inside a wooden Great Seal gifted to the U.S. ambassador in Moscow and transmitted Soviet intelligence for 7 years before anyone found it. No jetpack, no ejector seat, just a piece of carved wood. Myth number 3. Moles were ideological fanatics. The word mole conjures a true believer, someone radicalized at university. Convinced the Soviet Union represented a better future for humanity, the majority of Cold War traitors were motivated by money, not ideology, not blackmail, money. Aldrich Ames, the CIA officer who handed the KGB the identities of every U.S. asset inside Soviet intelligence, causing at least 10 executions, did it because he was in debt. He needed £35,000 to pay off his wife's loans. Robert Hansen spied for Moscow for 22 years and was paid approximately £1.4 million over his career. He was not a communist. He was a Catholic conservative who despised the Soviet system. He just wanted the money. Myth number 4. Polygraph tests caught spies. Intelligence agencies still use the lie detector as a primary vetting tool. The implication is that it works. The American Psychological Association has repeatedly stated the polygraph is not scientifically valid as a lie detection tool. What it detects is physiological stress, which anxiety produces just as readily as deception. Aldrich Ames passed multiple CIA polygraph tests while actively handing Moscow the names of every U.S. source inside Soviet intelligence. He later said his KGB handler had given him one simple instruction: stay calm, be cooperative, show no anxiety. The machine cannot tell the difference. Robert Hansen, the FBI's most damaging mole in history, was never once subjected to a polygraph during his entire 22-year career. The FBI considered him too senior to need one. But none of that is the darkest part, because the myth that killed more agents than any enemy operation was one the intelligence agencies themselves believed. And if you think that's dark, stay until the end. Because myth 9 is the one that didn't just kill agents. It almost ended the world. Myth number 5. Defectors were safe once they got out. The defector crosses the line, reaches the West, hands over everything, and lives out his days in a comfortable, safe house in Surrey, protected and anonymous. The KGB never stopped hunting defectors, ever. Nikolai Koklov defected in 1954, held a press conference exposing a KGB assassination plot, and 3 years later someone poisoned his coffee with radioactive thallium. He survived. Barely. The KGB's operational doctrine was explicit. Defectors were to be treated as traitors regardless of geography or time elapsed. The message was not for the defector himself. It was for everyone still inside the organization who might be thinking about it. Myth number 6. Cover identities could be maintained indefinitely. The sleeper agent lives a normal life for decades, waiting for activation. His cover so complete that no one ever suspects. Not his neighbors, not his colleagues, not even his wife. Cover identities degraded over time. Every year in place, the risk of exposure compounded. Language slipped. Social details didn't match. Records could be cross-referenced. And the deeper an agent embedded, the more people who could one day become problems. Gordon Lonsdale, real name Konon Molody, was the KGB's most successful illegal in Britain. He ran a network passing nuclear and naval secrets to Moscow for years. He was exposed not through any failure of his own cover, but because one of the agents beneath him was photographed by MI5 making a dead drop. Most KGB illegals were extracted or exposed within 5 to 8 years. The psychological pressure alone, living inside a false identity in a foreign country with no contact with family, caused a measurable rate of mental breakdown in the program. Myth number 7. Both sides knew what the other was doing. The Cold War is remembered as a chess match. Two superpowers watching each other's every move, each anticipating the next play in a kind of permanent strategic stalemate. Both sides were operating in near total darkness for most of the Cold War. Intelligence was incomplete, delayed, misinterpreted, or simply wrong. In 1983, the KGB's internal threat assessment concluded the United States was actively preparing a nuclear first strike. It wasn't. The assessment was based on garbled signals, misread military exercises, and institutional paranoia. Soviet nuclear forces were placed on elevated alert during NATO's Able Archer exercise. According to Oleg Gordievsky, who was inside the KGB at the time and secretly reporting to MI6, the Soviet Union came closer to launching a preemptive nuclear strike in November 1983 than at any point during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Neither side knew how close it was until years later. Myth number 8. The Berlin Wall fell because of a plan. On the night of the 9th of November 1989, the wall fell. Crowds surging forward, checkpoints opening. East Germans walking into West Berlin for the first time in 28 years. The inevitable, deliberate end of an era. It happened because of a press conference mistake. Günter Schabowski, a senior East German official, was handed a note minutes before going live on camera. It outlined new travel regulations, but with conditions still to be implemented. Schabowski hadn't been in the meeting where this was decided. He hadn't read the note when a journalist asked when the new rules would take effect. Schabowski looked down and said, immediately, without delay, he was wrong. The regulations were not meant to take effect that night. Within hours, the announcement had been broadcast across East Germany. Thousands went to the checkpoints. The guards, receiving no clear orders from a government that hadn't decided what to do, eventually stood aside. The wall fell not because of political will. It fell because a man didn't read his briefing notes. Myth number 9. The Cold War ended in 1991. The Soviet Union dissolved on the 25th of December 1991. Gorbachev resigned. The red flag over the Kremlin came down. The Cold War, by any conventional measure, was over. The operations didn't stop. The networks didn't dissolve. The sleeper agents already in place didn't receive a recall order, because in many cases, no one knew exactly where they all were. Robert Hanssen continued passing classified information to Russian intelligence for 10 more years after the Soviet collapse, finally arrested in 2001. The SVR, the KGB's foreign intelligence successor, maintained virtually every foreign residency the KGB had operated. Vladimir Putin, who had spent his career in KGB foreign intelligence, became president of Russia in 2000. The Cold War didn't end. It changed address. Everything you believe about spies, Hollywood put it there, or the intelligence agencies did. Both were happy for you to have it. The real Cold War was more dangerous, more incompetent, and far stranger than either of them ever told you. And the people who ran it, still alive, still talking, still deciding what you get to know.